welcome to PopCast, a crowd-sponsored yo-yo show. Huge shout out to John Anderson and Taka from Spin Gear and my 100 sponsors on Patreon.com. That's right, I have reached triple digit on Patreon.com/DocPop. Huge shout out to them, and we're going to talk a lot about the Patreon in this episode. But first off, I am in San Francisco. You got the little Sutro teepee tower behind me. I've been walking around this morning filming a new little clip video. It is a clip video for a new yo-yo that I'm doing called the Populist. Boop. All right, so let's get into it. What makes the Populist so special? Well, this was a yo-yo I designed in collaboration with my Patreon sponsors, again, on patreon.com/DocPop. And the idea was, hey, I want to make a yo-yo with y'all, and I know I want it to be bimetal. And then beyond that, who knows? Let's figure this out. This is the very first bimetal that I've ever released at DocPop Toys and Games. I've done yo-yos like the Sean Exploder. I've done yo-yos like the Icarus, the Weekender, the ultralight responsive yo-yo, but I've never done like a bimetal yo-yo. And what is that going to be like? Do we want to go for like floaty, fun feeling? Do we want to go for large, small? What are we looking at? And what we ended up doing was a yo-yo called the Populist. And again, the name was picked by the users. And we started off with just a shape. What's the shape that we want? So we kind of started weeding down. First, we started with like a broad, like 9 different shapes, and we kind of weeded it down. And each one was done with a poll, where in the poll, Patreon folks would kind of weed it down. And luckily, we tended to come to pretty good consensus with each thing. I think what we came out with at the end, maybe there's a few people who were kind of wanting something different. But for the most part, especially when it comes to the shape and the materials that we use and all that stuff, it seemed like you saw people really kind of clumping together. So this is the shape that we went with. And I think this kind of has a very DocPop look to it. Like it still has kind of the organic rounded edges. It's not super angular, but then it does go into the angular edges. And the next thing we did was, where does the metal go? Do we want the metal to be visible on the outer ring? Do we want it to be on the inside? Like, where do we want it? And what sort of metals? And we ended up choosing brass and steel. And so some of these are brass and some of them are steel. So the two brasses are the purple and red. And these are both fades. The thing is, the red is a very obvious fade. The purple is the most subtle purple to purple fade. I don't know if you can see that in this light. It's kind of a foggy day. But man, this is super, super, super subtle fade. And I think it just looks great. It looks classy. So, if you want the kind of bold fade or the subtle fade, brass is the way to go. And then in the steel direction, we've got the blue steel, which is actually anodized blue aluminum, but I call it the blue steel because it has the raw steel rings. And we have the super black. Now, if you're not familiar with super blacks are special edition Patreon yo-yos that I do. These are exclusive for Patreon subscribers. And what we do with the super blacks is that we obviously anodize them black, but before we do, we laser etch them. So usually you anodize and then laser, which gives you that high contrast. Here, we lasered and then anodized, which gives you very low resolution. And even here, this actually still kind of shows up a lot because I've been doing finger grinds on it, and that's actually probably dead skin on the inside of this thing. So if I cleaned it a little bit, it would probably come out. Speaking of cleaning these, one quick tip, these are like finger spin cups. These are actually the same cups that you see on the Icarus and things like that. Even the Weekender has these. When you laser etch on these, when you first do a finger spin on it, it feels like sandpaper, but it smooths down really quickly. And what I always do with Weekenders, Icarus, Sean Exploders, Populist, any of these, I usually take some denim and I just kind of like, or a sock or like a rag, it will kind of wear your fabric down. So use fabric you don't really care about. But I kind of put the fabric on my hand and then I just kind of do this. And I'll even kind of like scratch with my fingernail through the fabric. So just a little bit of that and you've got a very smooth yo-yo. It'll still have like a bit of a finish to it, but in a good way, kind of a velvety finish. So like I said, these are available in stainless steel or brass. These will be available on my site really soon, drpopular.com. My patrons have already gotten their pre-orders, so you'll be seeing them share those kind of early, but everybody else will get theirs soon. The diameter is 54.16 millimeter. The width is 46 millimeter. The gap, 4.51. The weight with the stainless steel rings is 63.7 grams. And the weight with the brass is actually a little heavier, 65. So just a 2 gram difference between, 1.3 gram difference between brass and stainless steel. So like I said, this was all done with my Patreon sponsors. We did it like collaboratively through a series of voting. It took a long time to kind of get them done because we had a series of polls. Just 2 months was voting on polls and mocking up things. But it was really fun doing a yo-yo that I wouldn't normally do, but still fits perfectly. I mean, I think the people who are voting in the Patreon poll are people who like my yo-yos. They like my aesthetic. They like the things that I make. And so we're on a similar wavelength. They're not going to make me design something I hate. And we did end up kind of sneaking in the Icarus fingerspin cups, which are also in Weekenders and stuff like that. So visually, you'll also have that Doc Pop link. And now that you've seen a preview of the yo-yo, let's cut to the clip video that I shot while walking around my neighborhood in San Francisco. I hope you enjoyed that clip video. A few times in the video, I was doing a trick. It was an Eiffel Tower that kind of forms mid-air kind of in front of me. That's called the Copper Tower. I haven't done a tutorial yet. So let's talk about the Copper Tower, and I'm going to kind of show it to you. I don't know if this is going to be the full tutorial or not, but let's see if I can help explain it. First off, Copper Tower is a reference to Copperfield Tower. It kind of reminds me of a magic trick where David Copperfield made the Eiffel Tower disappear. Here I'm making an Eiffel Tower appear. And this is actually my second Eiffel Tower that I've created that's kind of named and inspired by a magician. The first being Eric's Tower, which is named after the Houdini's real name. So it's kind of Houdini's Tower. And it starts with a Houdini mount. And Eric's Tower looks like this. Cool, right? Hey, it's me, Doc from the future. I'm editing this video and also coincidentally shipping out Populist orders from last week. Thanks everyone who's placed an order. As I'm editing this video, I noticed this one figure in the background wearing a yellow shirt. She was really not happy with me filming on the sidewalk in San Francisco. And you can see her all throughout this video from here on, just filming me or whatever. I don't know. Since I noticed it, I can't unsee it. So I thought I'd address it. After I was done and I was packing up, she yelled at me to identify myself and what I was doing. And I said, my name's Doc and I'm shooting a yo-yo video. And she was like, a yo-yo video? Yeah, right. I don't know what she thought I was doing. I live a few blocks away, but she was really unhappy that I was there shooting. Whatever, she's in the video now. Okay, so let's talk about how to get into Copper Tower. Copper Tower, I like to start with just an undermount or like a brain twister mount. And then what I'm gonna do is drape over my throw hand thumb, and then I'm going to open up these guys right here. So I'm just kind of going forward, open, and I'm going to pull with these two fingers, the claw. I'm going to pull with these two fingers. I'm going to pull this string right under my middle finger and pull it through like that. So brain twister, thumb, pull. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop the yo-yo up and I'm going to try to catch it here. So I'm going to try to dismount on this side, the outside of the string. I'm going to hop out and I'm going to try to catch it here. And right before I catch it, there's one more thing I'm going to do. Mid-air, I'm going to try to let this string fall off my thumb. So that happens mid-air. And when the yo-yo lands here, we've got our little tower. Now, once I get into this mount, what I then do to kind of dismount is I'm going to hop the yo-yo back and between my arms. So it goes through behind the string and everything. And then I'm just going to mount it onto here and drop. So here I have a little green triangle and then you can dismount from there. So basically from the Eiffel Tower mount, I just kind of roll it towards, like up towards my face and then down towards my belly and then catch it in a green triangle. Just a little extra finesse. When I do grab this string with these fingers, I actually turn my hand upside down. I guess that helps. And boop. You know, the end result, I want to land kind of cleanly on my thumb and on my pointer finger. So if you have a little twist or something like that, you can play around with how you're catching it. But as I've been kind of practicing this trick more and more, I do notice I kind of go down and then end up here. Now, if the string doesn't come off right away, or if you haven't pulled through, you can still do those kind of slowly. You can kind of let that fall off and just pull through. And you've got your Eiffel Tower. Well, that's it for this short trick tutorial for the Copper Tower. If you need a more polished version of the Copper Tower, let me know and I'll see if I can put up a better tutorial for it. But for now, hopefully that helps you figure it out. Thanks for watching this episode of PopCast, a crowd-sponsored yo-yo show. PopCast has been going on since 2007, so like 15 years now. I started doing the Patreon in, I think, 2017, and that's when the show really started becoming very regular. You know, one episode a month, plus a tutorial, plus my YoIP, virtual yo-yo club, and now like the collabs that we're doing, the voting collabs. I don't know if we're gonna do more voting on yo-yo stuff in the future. It takes a while, right? It's a very slow process, but my patrons really seem to like it, and you know, I think the end result turned out pretty cool. So who knows? You can join the Patreon at patreon.com/DocPop. Help support the show. It is free to watch otherwise, so you don't need to sign up for anything. But if you do, you get a chance to participate in behind the scenes stuff, as well as get 10% off of yo-yos, including the Populist, which will be up on my site soon, possibly when you see this, drpopular.com. Thanks for watching. I'm kind of stress-free at the moment in terms of waiting for yo-yos or, you know, things like that. I'm thinking about the next yo-yo project I want to work on, and I thought it'd be a lot of fun to work on a project with you, the community. Copper-plated yo-yo. First thing I'm going to throw out there because it's kind of what I'm most excited about. Titanium. Other ideas. Bimetal. I have never done a bimetal yo-yo. Maybe it's time to fix that. I don't know what it would be. It could be a bimetal responsive. It could be a bimetal unresponsive. It could be a bimetal version of an existing yo-yo. I think Jake's Slam Dunk really looks great. I think it's such a sharp look. And I really like working, like I mentioned earlier, I really like working with the unusual metals. Like, I've done nickel and gold plated, but like I haven't done anything with brass or copper or steel. And that's where bimetal is really going to come in handy. I don't want to make a steel yo-yo. I've tried a bunch. It's just not my jam. But maybe there's something with a beautiful brass ring, or even copper, I guess, as on top of an aluminum yo-yo. So something we're kind of all familiar with and something I know how to work with and design, added with some beautiful, interesting, extra material to give it extra weight or just to look good. You know how bimetal works. Leave the comments below. Sky's the limit. I'm not saying no to anything yet. And I'm not exactly sure what this is going to be like. This is our first time talking about doing a collaborative yo-yo project, but I think it's going to be cool. Thanks.